On April 10, 2025, tragedy struck the New York City skyline. A sightseeing helicopter carrying 6 people crashed into the Hudson River. There were no survivors. The victims were identified as the pilot and a family of 5. The family was visiting New York City from out of state. They were excited to see the iconic landmarks from above. This tragic accident has reignited the debate over the safety of sightseeing helicopter tours. The crash occurred on a clear day with good visibility. The helicopter had just taken off from a heliport on the west side of Manhattan. It was heading south along the Hudson River when it suddenly lost altitude and plunged into the water. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. However, early reports suggest that mechanical failure may have been a factor. The crash site was located near the pier where the Titanic once docked. Emergency responders arrived on the scene within minutes. They worked tirelessly to locate survivors and recover the wreckage. However, their efforts proved futile. The helicopter sank quickly in the deep, murky waters of the Hudson River. This recent tragedy is a grim reminder of the dangers posed by sightseeing helicopters. New York City has a long history of helicopter accidents. Over the past 40 years, 25 people have died in these crashes. In 2009, 9 people died when a sightseeing helicopter collided with a small plane over the Hudson River. 5 years later, in 2018, another helicopter crashed into the East River. This accident claimed the lives of 5 passengers. The pilot, the sole survivor, was pulled from the wreckage. These accidents have raised serious questions about the safety regulations governing sightseeing helicopters. Critics argue that these regulations are not stringent enough. They point out that sightseeing helicopters are not subject to the same safety standards as commercial airlines. For example, sightseeing helicopters are not required to have flight data recorders or cockpit voice recorders. These devices can be crucial in determining the cause of an accident. In the wake of the latest tragedy, lawmakers are renewing their calls for stricter regulations. New York State Senator Brad Hoylman-Sigal has been a vocal advocate for banning sightseeing helicopter flights over the city. He argues that these flights are inherently dangerous and pose an unacceptable risk to New Yorkers and tourists alike. Senator Hoylman-Sigal believes that the skies above New York City should be reserved for essential operations such as first responders, news helicopters, and necessary transportation. Senator Hoylman-Sigal's efforts have been met with resistance from the helicopter tour industry. The industry argues that sightseeing flights are safe and provide a valuable service to tourists. They also argue that a ban would result in job losses and hurt the city's economy. Despite the calls for change, enacting stricter regulations faces significant challenges. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, has jurisdiction over airspace above 500 feet. This limits the city and states' ability to pass their own safety regulations for sightseeing helicopters. The FAA has been reluctant to impose stricter regulations on the industry, arguing that the current safety record is acceptable. However, there have been some recent legislative actions aimed at addressing the issue. In 2024, the governor signed legislation to relocate the West 30th Street helipad from Hudson River Park. This move was seen as a victory for residents who had long complained about noise and safety concerns. While the helipad relocation does not address the larger issue of sightseeing helicopter safety, it does demonstrate a willingness to take some action. The debate over the future of sightseeing helicopters in New York City is far from over.